All right, Dale, this is a board game show, man. You know what we have to do on a board game show?
Play a game.
We got to play a game. So I'm going to bring in Steve, the name father, and I also got making his first appearance on the Gumbo, Jay Bell. What's up, Jay Bell? There he is.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hello, Dale. How are you?
Good.
All right. So, hey, Steve, now that we got Dale here, Dale loves his games. He's ready for the game. Tell the chat crew what game we're doing tonight and how BJ is going to somehow pull out a win in this game.
Yeah, I've seen what BJ has written down, so I don't know how I can answer the last bit.
And Dale has not seen this. Let's make sure he knows.
True. That's true. We're doing the Boudin Bowl tonight. So this one is one where we've got 3 players, and we're competing to get the attention of the judge, and Dale's going to be the judge on this one. We've got 4 categories. BJ, Jay, and I have drafted games to play in each of these little slots. For each one of these quarters, we'll try to sell to you why our game fits that category best, and Dale's going to judge it and give a touchdown, 7 points, 3 points to second place for a field goal, and 0 for person who, BJ, who has a strange choice of some sort too that doesn't make sense. Jay and I and BJ will all trash talk each other, but you can pay attention to what people are saying in the chat as well, because they'll be lobbying for their choices too.
Yeah, Dale, the chat is involved in this because they're going to try to convince you one way or the other. Hopefully the chat crew loves my choices, as they do every week, Steve.
Yes. And again, like I told you in the green room, the only last rule is that if it's a tie at the end, BJ loses.
Fair enough.
Oh, I haven't seen Steve's charts. Oh, some tough choices here. All right, Steve, get us started.
All right. So let me pull up the sheet here. The first category, we given your background here, we decided to try and find some things that were going to work for you. We wanted to pick a writer game. And I've got writer in quotation marks there. Everybody was free to define it as however they chose that category. So let's do the order we got them in. Let's do BJ, me, and Jay, and then we'll do me, Jay, BJ. We'll just rotate around that way. So BJ, kick it off.
Yep, sure. So I love word games. We didn't get to talk about one of the games that you had, Master Word, which maybe we can talk about another time. But I love word games. Runes is one of my favorite games of all time. Had to get rid of it in my collection because I couldn't get anyone else to play it with me, even though I love that game. No one else liked it. So I got rid of it. But one of the games that Bradley has is a game called Paperback. It's from Tim Fowers Games, and it's a Dominion plus words. See, Steve? See how I'm thinking there? It's been accurately described as Dominion plus words. So I went with Paperback for no. Wait a minute, Dale's on the show. I didn't even notice that. Oh, what a connection! So that's Paperback, an absolutely fun game with a cool theme where you're actually trying to come up with these paperback titles with all the different letters. So forget Boggle, put Boggle away in your collection, play Paperback instead.
Yep. I like this one. This one wasn't the category that I had questions for you, BJ. I thought you did a good job on this one. I went in a different direction. Rather than writing words yourself, I went with a game that was going to have appeal because it called back to a particular writer. And for me, I went with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. You're reading through that, and you're also writing and taking notes. You're trying to put together the plot line of that and solve the mystery and think like Holmes, which you can't because he's going to beat you. But it's still a good cooperative game around the table to try and solve this, and it really called to me with the writer theme.
So you went with theme. Okay.
I went with theme rather than mechanic in that sense, yeah.
Jay, what you got?
So
I don't know this game, so you're going to have to sell it to me, man.
Mm-hmm. The one I decided on was actually just finished on Kickstarter by Evan and Josh Katz. It's Puns of Anarchy. And this one I really like. Yeah, this one I really like because it's a party game that uses the same kind of judging system that you're used to, except it puts a twist on it because every person is a judge in that round. So each round, you're dishing out as many witty puns as you can write onto these cards. You're changing Foo Fighters into like tofu fighters or flu fighters, and you're just dishing them into different categories that each person will have. And
who invited Jay on the show, Steve? That's too strong of a choice, man. That's really good.
Wordplay is always going to be interesting to me. That's an interesting one.
Puns of Anarchy, strong choice. James says something called Sinner Write and Trade.
That's a game from Indonesia that he loves, and it's a super interesting, but not a game for me.
James, that sounds like a no on that one. All right. Steve, what's next?
Well, we got at this point now. It's time for Dale to start thinking through who he's going to give the touchdown to, who gets the field goal, and who gets
All right.
Konoyo.
Konoyo.
Well,
0 points.
so for BJ's game, I mean, man, I tell you what, negative points for getting rid of runes because that's like one of my favorite writing games ever.
Yes.
Now, did you know that that's been re-released?
I did not know that.
So it came out
I had the original Eon edition.
Yeah, so it came out. It's actually going to be a series of 2 or 3 games. The first one's called Wordsmith, which is almost a full re-release of runes. That's from Heidelbar. But they have 2 other games that use that word piece system. So they're trying to expand it out in other games.
You have, Steve, you got pieces of the letters and the designers, I think the same as Cosmic Encounter, if I remember right. And it's the 4 basic parts of the English language letters. I didn't realize you could distill them all into basic in 4 parts. And they made a game about putting those parts together into words. Just so much fun. Such a good game.
Cool. But, I think in the end,
like a touchdown, man.
The whole idea of wordplay, though, pretty much always wins out, man. I'm a cryptic crossword guy and puns, and especially if you got to do it seat of your pants. I mean, how can that not be fun?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to give touchdown to Jay, and now I'm trying to decide here who gets a field goal because, I mean, Paperback's a good game. It's a good, got a little bit of deck building. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is more of a reader game to me, not a writer game. And there's a lot of text to read. Though I was super fascinated by the recent designer diary on Board Game Geek about the new Sherlock Holmes cases that are going to come out. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
The problem is that we're going to spend 2.5 hours and we're not going to solve it. And then Holmes solved it in 4 moves. And you're like, what?
That's right.
It's always disappointing. So I'm going to give the field goal to BJ. Sorry, Steve.
Okay. All right.
I'll take it. Paperback with the field goal. I got to admit, I would have voted for Puns of Anarchy. The way Jay, you pulled it well.
Jay's doing well. I hope he's enjoying his first and only
This
appearance.
may be the first and only time he gets invited at this rate.
It might be. It might be. Patrick, I know would love a name like Puns of Anarchy. All right, what's next, Steve?
All right. So I'll put in the marks for that one. It's easy enough to remember that I got nothing. So now we got into a Traveler game. And again, everybody's free to define this the way they chose, but I chose one that was going to be based on the theme of traveling, and I went with parks. Parks being one where as you are a traveler, you are out there, you are trying to visit all of the different places, you are trying to have the experiences, you are trying to see the sights. And integral to the game is that idea of traveling around the parks in that. So that one felt like a no-brainer to me, with also the idea that when you see these parks on the cards, you so want to go. It doesn't just do well with the mechanics, it inspires you to want to travel someday.
I like it. Jay?
So my Traveler game travels all the way to outer space. It's a space-themed game, but the mechanics are heavy into travel and movement. I'm talking about Quantum. In Quantum, you're using dice to move around to different planets and drop off your quantum cube so that you can extract energy from the planet. But each dice has its own movement and special ability. The 5 dice can move diagonal. The 2 dice can actually pick up other dice and move them. So you're traveling all over this board trying to collect your points. And that's why I chose Quantum.
I have not played Quantum.
Quantum's a really good game.
Yes.
Sounds pretty good. So for mine, I went with Traveler, and I can't think of a game that doesn't represent that than a whole company, Travel Buddy Games, from Josh from Gray Fox Games. He started a separate company called Travel Buddy Games, and his philosophy, if you know Josh is a world traveler. He loves to travel, loves exotic places, loves all of that, and he collects memories about those. So he said when he was out there, they used to play Happy Salmon or any kind of game that you can fit in your pocket and introduce people at a hostel. And he wanted a whole company that would produce games like that. The first one is Great Barrier Reef card game. I got a chance to play it. I played it with Josh and with a couple other people. And it's one of my favorite categories. I love the Oink boxes. I love anything that's got portability, tiny little games. But my favorite of those are games like Jiraku, that they may be in a small, tiny little package, but they fill up a big game experience. A game like Jiraku will give you an area control game like El Dorado in a tiny box experience and in a short time. And the Great Barrier Reef card game is like that. It's got this cool spatial puzzle where you're trying to put all these beautiful cards on top of a reef and score points with all the different fish that are going through. So it's got great card artwork. The designers put together a nice little package, and it all fits in a tiny little box that you can fit into your pocket. So it's Traveler, and it's also got the Traveler theme. So that is Great Barrier Reef card game. Trying to make it tough on there. Some people call Great Barrier Card Reef game the Dominion of ocean games.
Wow. Now that's kind of pandering, but hey, you got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Hey, Marlon, thanks for taking it. Actually, I haven't heard anybody say that. I just said that for the first time. Go ahead.
Well, let's see. With these, I don't know, Jay. I mean, Quantum's a great game, but I don't know. Outer space and travel. I mean,
it's a long way to travel, man.
I mean, it's kind of an Elon Musky sort of stretch there for travel, isn't it?
Elon Musky.
He's reaching.
Is that a word? I mean, I don't know if it's a word.
No.
I would probably definitely have to go with parks. I mean, I think that the theme is there, and man, those bits are great. I was super impressed with that. I mean, initially, I had first played a similar game. Traveling to the
national parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, man, I love the art on that and the idea. The game wasn't quite as polished. I mean, I think they ended up polishing it more in the second one, the Traveling the World.
Right.
But Parks, I mean, that art is just fantastic, and
Beautiful.
The bits are cool, and I mean, yeah, you definitely get the sense that you're seeing the parks and doing that.
Mick is with you. He says parks. So
I would probably say that would be the touchdown, and then the Traveler game's next.
You really mussed that one up there. So you said parks is first, and then
your game from Traveler, the
Great Barrier Reef
then,
card game.
Outer space.
Outer space. So, hey, Steve, remind me, the name father. Whenever Mick and Startle on the show, we're not playing the Boudin Bowl because we never sync up. He always hates my choices. He comes here every week and he's like, I'm always stretching. So,
Well,
all right.
You have to save that shirt to pander to him.
So, Steve, it's halftime.
It's
It's halftime. So, give us the scores, and Dale's going to do a little song, I guess, and a dance if you don't
All
mind.
right.
It's kind of
Oh,
traditional.
wow.
It is a close game. Jay and I both have 7, and BJ's got 6.
Ooh,
So
maybe
if Jay was looking to make a bet with you, if he skunked you in the whole tournament, this is going to have to become the Beignet Bowl. It's going to be closer than that.
Well, but if Jay's up in Canada, though, he might still score a rouge here somewhere along the way and tie it up.
There you go.
All
There you
right.
go. Halftime, close
Pittsburgh
game.
by way of Canada. So, what we got for the next category?
Third game. We come back from halftime, and now we're looking for a quote funny game. And again, define this as you please. And I think in terms of rotating around, we're up to then Jay, BJ, then me.
And funny because you enjoyed Dale's his bio on BGG, right?
Absolutely.
One of the funnier
Oh
ones.
yeah.
And the comments in the notes. I appreciated the call back to Holy Grail and come and see the violence inherent in the system.
All of these are all tied to you, Dale. So, all right. So, Jay, give us your choice.
So my funny game is actually one that I played for, I want to say the first or second time this weekend, but here's the kicker. I played it for 5 hours. That's how much fun we were having with this game.
Twilight Imperium?
It's Blockbuster. It was Blockbuster. Like, this game does a perfect job of bringing you back to the nostalgia. It actually brings you back to the Blockbuster parking lot, and you and your friends are in the parking lot discussing all the great movies, and you're acting them out. You're giving quotes for them. You're giving one words, and you're trying to get your friends to guess what it is. And what's funny about it is 2 parts. One, you see the tension build on their face as the timer's running down, and they got the words on the tip of their tongues, and you're just looking at them like, you're not going to get it, so we're just laughing at you. And then you get to see them do these Oscar-worthy performances or terribly unidentifiable performances of movies you've probably seen a billion times. But again, 5 hours, we didn't get tired of it. We wanted to keep going. Blockbuster.
Really strong at Gen Con. They're the big potato, if I remember right.
Yeah,
They
big potato.
They had that booth, Dale. That was just Alex Goldsmith and I are walking around going, "Oh my god!" I mean, because I lived at Blockbuster. I mean, it just felt like I did. It's right next to my house. Walking around that booth just brought back a lot of memories. So, am I up next?
Yep. It's to you, BJ.
So this is a game I've been wanting to play. Big fan of Wolfgang Barsch. I've seen like everything he's done except that one that's not the Mine. I think
It's not a game.
Tiny little game that's not really a game. No,
It's not a game. It's not even not like a game. It's not a game.
Yeah, it just didn't hit. It just didn't hit for me. Everything else though, love Wolfgang Barsch. And the game that he had was called Wavelength. what I liked about Wavelength, I've been wanting to play it, but it was really hard to get. If you didn't get it at the convention, since then it just seems to have been out of print for a while. Really tough to get, but we found a copy on TTS, and I'm going to have to buy it. This is one of those, hey, publishers, put your games on TTS, because I played it for 3 hours, 2 hours the other night, and convinced myself, okay, I got to order the game.
Was it 5 hours, BJ?
It was a long time. Well, it was Twilight Imperium, but it was long, Jay. We played it for a long time. Wavelength, Dale, I think you've played Wavelength before, right?
So played it with Alex, the designer, at one of our local cons.
There it is. The premise, very simple. It's that water cooler argument of what is the most overrated athlete or the most underrated athlete, and the guessers have to figure out what the clue giver is thinking in that person's mind, because when they spin the dial, it comes up with a random bracket that is sort of like a radio dial with a wavelength, and it's going to land one way or the other. And the clue giver has to try to give them a clue that's going to give it right to them to where they're going to put the little scanner on there, a little slider. And they want to match it up. The other team is still in because they can pick either the left or the right of that. So the gamesmanship comes with how far you're going to go on it. We laughed our butts during Wavelength. I mean, it was just so much fun playing with my nephews. That's Wavelength. That was a way too long explanation. Sorry about that. I just got excited thinking about how much fun we had at the game.
Okay, back to me. This one, I'm wondering about funny on this one because it might just be my sense of humor, which is kind of skewed and dark. And I'm not sure what yours is, Dale. We'll see how this goes. But if your sense of humor goes toward the Addams Family or Edward Gorey and something kind of nasty, then I would say Gloom, where you have characters like this character. And she's described as Helena enjoys gardening, long walks in the moonlight, and reanimating the dead. Or Butterfield the butler. Whatever it is, he did it. And what you're playing with this is you've got 5 different families, or you're playing with however many people around the table. They have their family members out in front of them. Your job is to kill off all of their family members through using cards like devoured by weasels, or wounded by wasps, or pierced by porcupines, or sickened by salmon. And if you get the right group of people who can tell this as a story as to what you've done to these other characters and how you poison them or push them down the stairs or dump them into the lake, it can be really, really darkly amusing.
Jay, did we have a rule about using props during the Boudin Bowl?
I didn't know.
I don't remember that rule.
The rule is you should have thought of it. And
I'm calling shenanigans Boudin Bowl rule breaker. Dale, ignoring the props.
Completely in bounds. We have a catch. Yeah,
unfortunately for you, though, I think my sense of humor is more on like the Benny Hill side than that. Okay. So, you know.
I smell a Kono-Yo on that one, Steve.
It's feeling like it.
Interception.
Blockbuster's pretty cool. I mean, props. The thing I saw, the case kind of looks like an old VHS cover.
Yeah,
it's
lips
pretty
open.
Cool.
Yeah,
and I remember having a lot of laughs the very first year the Big Potato guys were at Essen because they were giving like a €3 discount if you brought them a goddamn potato, and they had like this pile of potatoes in the back of their booth, and I was like, "What are you guys going to do with these potatoes?" They're like, "I don't know." But no, yeah, I mean, Blockbuster. I mean, it looks super reminiscent, of also like Time's Up, with the whole charades bit, and you need a lot of pop culture. So that's definitely in the running. But Wavelength is just, I mean, it's an awesome game, especially if you are playing with people because that's when it is funny. Because a lot of people think, oh, it's super easy because the category might be, you're like using his example, overrated athlete or underrated athlete, and you can say, oh, well, surely I'm going to say Michael Jordan or I'm going to say this, but you can't, because you have to in the end figure out, well, it's pointed like 60%, so I got to come up with someone like who's in the middle.
Sure.
And then and it's just so funny because you are invariably surprised at either you learn something about your friends you didn't know, or if you're given the clue, it's so funny how stupid your friends are because they can't see things the way that you see them. And then it's nonstop laughs.
Oh, my nephew and I didn't sync up at all. Just dumb answers, man. Sorry.
So I'm gonna have to go BJ, then Jay, and then Steve.
All right.
Good pick, BJ.
I like Mix's choice though. Forgotten Waters. That's the Plaid Hat games. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Yeah. really good writing in that game. Really funny. So good choice there, Mick. I like that.
And then, BJ, you may want to look. I don't know if they're still doing that, but the Wavelength Twitter account was playing an online game of Wavelength every day.
No, I do the one.
Alex was putting up.
Yeah, I do the medium one every day. I didn't realize there was one for a Wavelength.
I thought it was on Twitter also. But anyways, it's just something to screw around with every day.
I love it. Yeah, I do the medium one just about every day. Although sometimes my clues are not exactly.
Speaking of which, sometimes BJ's way of playing the game is not the game. The fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter. Well, Wavelength. What people have told me that Wavelength is like the Dominion of party games. Now, for the fourth quarter, I went with a different choice.
Yeah,
BJ is the Dominion of pandering.
The Donald X Vaccarino of pandering.
We joke about this in this Gateway and Filler Game Group chat. There's always two games being played. There's the one on the table and the one BJ's play.
Yeah, exactly. So the fourth quarter, obviously.
Fourth quarter. At this point, I'm going to have to play spoiler. So it's a question of who do I want to try and win here? Because I don't think I can get it. But the fourth quarter, the category is a doctor game. And this, again, you're able to choose it the way you want to define doctor. And we're back to the start of the loop. So to be BJ, me, Jay, I think, is the...
That's what I was.
I think so.
Dale, I have a question for you. What once a day keeps the doctor away? What is it?
Your insurance company?
Well, yes,
ambulance chasers?
Yes.
I mean, what are you getting at here?
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. So the obvious choice to me was Imperial Settlers. Ignacy Trzewiczek included the world famous, those are apples, or some people say Roman tomatoes, but they're apples, and those apples are integral to the game. I personally can't think of a more important mechanic in the game than the apples that are included in Imperial Settlers. You can't win, especially if you're a barbarian, unless you have apples. So Imperial Settlers, obvious choice as the doctor game.
All right. I can't even get
I assumed I was losing at this point.
I can't even get my game at this point because the only thing is it that why wasn't it apples, two apples? Because you got double the apples. You had
True.
But again,
that has nothing to do with doctors, though, and Imperial Settlers. Yeah,
of course. Oh, I see the connection now. Thank you.
No, Mick, that is too obvious. Dice Hospital, way too.
Dice Hospital's a good call.
You got to veer. You got to zig.
This was an old school one for me, one that first got me into the modern board game hobby, and that would have been Pandemic. And you've got the medic.
Too soon.
And it is too soon, but hey, here we are. So you're arguing for imperialism, BJ? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
Oh, too soon.
Yeah, still too soon.
Yeah, still too soon. Yeah.
For me, Pandemic would be the one that really works because you've got the 4 diseases that you're trying to control around the board, and the medic is that super person who's going from place to place. But the heroes are the researchers and the quarantine specialists in the background. This is not just a doctor. This is medicine on a board, epidemiology on a board. So that one's mine.
Good choice,
Wow.
Jay.
How do I follow that?
No,
No,
you could just
I
give
know
up,
exactly.
Jay. And
Oh,
I'm
no.
unbiased, and I think that's a great
no.
strategy for you.
You got the field goal, Jay.
BJ, you mentioned Wolfgang, right? You mentioned
did.
Wolfgang? Well, I'm choosing Quacks.
There it is.
Quacks
Quacksalber.
Quillenberg. Because not only do you get to be a doctor in this game, you get to be a bad doctor, a charlatan. You get to do what you can't do normally as a doctor, is throw weird stuff into...
He's a real doctor, though, Jay. He's a real doctor.
And I'm sure
I could be a quack.
Yes. But yeah, in this game, not only is the game beautiful with the die-cut player boards, the books, everything about the game is immersive. You're pushing your luck, so you feel like you're a doctor sometime where it's like you have to make the right decision, Everything is hinging on this one bag pull. You might get it right, you might get it wrong, but it's super important. And then you also get to be a doctor because you just study rats, and rats help you get, just as good as the other doctors. You can just close the gap by studying rats.
There's Dale doing his rounds, checking his paper, and nurse, give me that bag.
Rats.
Oh, we saved you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, that's mine.
Mick does not like my choices here. He says it's not even in the stadium; it's in the parking lot. All right. But he does approve of quacks, and so does James Nathan. They've got great taste. So Dale,
Well, James Nathan is saying Quacksalvy, which is a very unbelievably obscure German game where you're doctors and you win by killing off the most patients.
oh, that's a different game. Then. Okay,
Yeah.
No. That does not sound like a good doctor game.
So no pressure, but it's all on the line.
Wow. I don't know. The apples, may actually keep me away. Like I can't even figure out how to tie that in, even if it is,
Yes.
I'm working on it. No.
Nope. Not thick enough.
Probably, going with pandemic, not just because, of the obvious thematics, but man, it is just a game that, I'll admit I'm biased, but thankfully didn't get quite the respect that maybe it does, that it came up in a bad year because it very well should have been Spiel des Jahres. When was the last time that there were essentially two genre-forming games in the same year? I can't think of another one, right? In any other year, plus minus 3 years from 2009, Pandemic would have won for sure.
Either one of those.
Rightfully
games,
so.
Yeah, either one of those games should have won. They just happened to be the same year.
Yeah, and I had a great experience playing that game for the very first time. And admittedly, I've never been a great fan of co-ops, but getting to play that with Leacock in Berlin was it was cool.
Oh, wow.
And it's a game that's well deserving of, everything that all the accolades that it's had, and certainly timely this year, more so than any other, right? Sort of talk to some of them as the sales this year of that game have been through the roof. Admittedly, so is Dominion. Because people have, people didn't take vacations, and it seems like buying games and doing home renovations is the 2020 activity of the year because you can't do anything else.
Do you agree with Chris Ray that Fauna was up there in that little triumvirate?
In the top three for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
There were only 3 games there, but that's
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Fauna
is actually pretty sweet too, but it's not a traveling game and not about doctors, so
That's true. Yeah, Chris, that's an automatic flag. Not unlike Imperial Settlers, Fauna has nothing to do with doctors. So
right. So I guess I'm going with Steve and then Jay. There's nothing wrong with a little quackery because sometimes it doesn't matter what you do to treat them as long as they get better. It's all good.
little placebo effect, right?
Right. There you go.
All right, so you're going with Steve, Pandemic. Are you all in on Pandemic? Do you keep going? Do you keep playing everything that comes out?
No, I don't. I play the base and I play the dice game. And I am looking for, though, we have made a request and hopefully Z-Man will grant it to play Pandemic Legacy Season 0 early.
Okay.
We were so desperate to play it, I actually sent an email out to Rob Davio trying to say, hey, can you hook me up? He's like, no, and I've already busted up all my prototypes because otherwise I might have sent you something. But even if they don't send one, someone in my group I'm sure is going to get one, and we'll try to play that.
I'm in the Pandemic season, Pandemic Legacy, and then the base Pandemic with the next expansion that came out that had the trader mechanic. But other than that, I haven't really gotten into anything. But Pandemic Iberia is the one that to me looks just really different, look really cool. So I would like to try that one at some point.
Cool.
All right, so Steve, wrap it up. How did it end up?
Closest Boudin Bowl ever, I think.
Probably so.
14, 13, 13.
Wow.
But I snuck it out with the late touchdown because BJ was doing his Leon Lett impression, showboating before the end, and pulled out Imperial Settlers. So I think you kind of gave that one to us. But 14, 13, 13, close match.
I thought Imperial Settlers were winners, so I take note of that. Luke says he likes The Rock, man. Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, which I have not played yet.
We played that at Luke's house, and his daughter calls it the monster game, and she's right. It's cool.
Monster game. And that is the Boudin Bowl presented by Game Toppers LLC. Hey, Dale, make your game nights a showstopper when you play on a Game Topper. So
Nice.
Our friend Berkey supports the Southern Board Game Fest as a fundraiser for New Hope Foundation, providing mentoring services for some of the disadvantaged youth on the north side of our town. Unfortunately, we had to push it off to next year, but we're doing an online part in October 10th. So look out for that. Yeah, in fact, Jay will be running a Potion Explosion tournament if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Not the same as our regular con, but still, we're going to make it happen. All right, so let me send Jay and Steve the victorious. Who's the big winner?
Yep.
Was Jay? Steve.
I took it by one. Who's close?
The victorious Steve and the victorious Jay.
Good
All right.
talking to you, Dale, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, Dale.
Great, thank you.
All right, Dale. That was Boudin Bowl. Your first time playing the Boudin Bowl. Not too bad. Enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
it's fun.
Tough choices. At least we tried to make it tough on you. If we could. Yes, and usually I have a bad fourth quarter, so that does happen.